Month 7, December 2022. He was in my father S. Rafe's office, Sarah told the Pogues. They were at Chateau Maybank, the of stars light failing as dawn promised daylight. Yet, it was mild for the time of the year, the bite of winter some weeks off. They were sitting together, all except JJ, who was busy auditing the remains of the house, clearly looking for something. "You let him go?" John B. called over to JJ. From a hole from what was once the ground floor and into the basement, his best friend lifted his head up, meerkat style. "There was no let about it," JJ told him. Pope watched him dip back down and rifle through the holes in the ground through which he was searching. A packet of cigarettes appeared next to the rifle bullet casing, empty beer cans and a bumper from a Ford Dodge. "I was thinking about the Queen Anne crown, I looked into it," said John B., as Sarah snuggled close to him. "You didn't," Pope replied. "Go on, tell us." Beside him, hand in his, Cleo looked across to John B., too. Opposite them, curled up in a throw, was Key. "Blackbeard," John B. told him. "What?" "I went to see Mr. Sun before he died, I mean," he added. "He went on to tell me all of the legend of Blackbeard, which everyone round here knows. But, when I mentioned the gold sovereign, he clammed up, and refused to say anything." John B. glanced around them, pausing as he told the story. He was not vain, but he was enjoying people listening to him. "When Blackbeard blockaded Charleston, he left the treasure behind," John B. went on, "or so Mr. Sun believes. He also believes that it was left in the hand of the Limbri family, who had come to the pirates' aid several times." "That's just a legend. Pirates, treasure," Pope scoffed. He shook his head, taking from JJ's hand a plank of wood. Their friend really was looking very hard for something. But John B. shook his head. The historical record said he had a sovereign, a Queen Anne sovereign, linked to the name of his ship. It was the finger to King George I, who had been trying to cleanse the Caribbean of pirates, to tell him that he had not succeeded. The coin controlled all the other gold. Key gave a snort and John B. broke off, raising an eyebrow. "You're just telling us the plot of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie," she told him. "Next, a giant squid is going to come out of the sea and—" Her voice trailed off as John B. waited for her to finish. "King George I offered Edward Teach, Estral Hands, Stede Bonnet and Benjamin Hornigold a pardon, in return for taking a letter of marque," John B. went on. "It is an order signed by the king to operate as a privateer." He showed them the drawing he had made from Devon Sun's book that the man had shown him. "That coin that Aidan Drummond had, looked exactly like this one," John B. went on, as the picture circulated amongst the Pogues. "Its presence was recorded in documents that Mr. Sun was researching." JJ, John B. called to his friend, and when JJ looked out of his hole again, John B. nodded towards the picture of the Queen Anne sovereign. "Yes, that was it," JJ said, and dipped down into the hole again. This time, a wooden box made an appearance. "But, couldn't it be faked?" Chiaro asked, glancing over to JJ as he stood on tiptoe looking out of ground, and opened the wooden box. "Perhaps, but Queen Anne sovereigns are extremely rare," John B. replied, nodding as he took back the drawing from Cleo. Wyo had been trying to copy the pose of the last Stuart monarch. If someone had done that to the coin, drilled a hole in the top of it, that would make its collectible value plummet. Numismatists are particular about their coins. "Go on, John B. Tell us where it was last seen." Sarah knew that her husband would never rest until a mystery was solved. He turned to look at Cleo, who had echoed Sarah's words. "Well, it always goes that way," she said, in her rippling Barbadian accent. "Britain, Bristol." He waited, and no one said anything for a moment. Then he saw JJ's face. They knew he had had a confrontation with Aidan Drummond a few mornings before. WHCH had resulted in the boy running from the Brooks house, when the police had come to the door. "Come on," said Sarah, something occurring to her. "We have to find him." "Where is he, do you suppose?" He replied, her question dripping with sarcasm. "We know he is not in the Outer Banks, and so that just leaves ... the rest of the world." "There's only one place he could be," John B. told them. JJ, who had appeared out of his hole again, gave John B a narrow-eyed look. "Charleston again?" complained Key. "No, look, school, guys, remember?" we agreed. She got to her feet, and went to sit next to JJ, as he pulled out another box, and was rooting around inside it. Sarah and Pope, however, were on their feet, as if deciding that, if Charleston was where they were going to go, they'd better get going immediately. We agreed we would put stuff like this behind us, he implored. We agreed to go straight, get our graduate and go on to college. "And we can still do all of that," Sarah told her. "But this is something else, too." She looked down to John B, who shrugged his shoulders. "You can tell them, go ahead," he told Sarah, with more offhandedness in his voice than he felt. "Aiden Drummond is ... John B.'s brother," Sarah told them, her face serious. Any wisecracks that might have been on their way were swallowed back, and the information hung between them like a cobweb in a cave. Then a deluge of, "No way, man!" and "Wow, seriously?" echoed all around them. "Is that why he ran?" he demanded to know, as the exclamations died down. "JJ?" Looking up, JJ Maybank shrugged, lighting up cannabis cigarette before inhaling deeply and passing it to Key. "There's more," JJ told them. "This slimy Brit, who we now know is John B's brother," he gave John B a look, "is on the run from the cops. I got a friend over at the precinct." "Well, does the garbage, dirt Phil?" Pope asked him. When JJ inclined his head, the pugs all groaned. Phil Howard not only disposed of the garbage, but went through it and salvaged anything he could of value, including what could be used to blackmail anyone he thought he could get a quick buck from. "He told me that the cops want him for murder." "Murder of his parents?" "His parents?" Sarah repeated. "Well, we know that can't be true. One of his parents was Big John Routledge, the other," he glanced uncertainly to John B, who then took over. "My dad and Carla Limbry were traveling in England, to Bristol. She was pregnant, and while she was there, gave birth to Aiden." "And she didn't die recently, did she?" "She died," Sarah replied. "Renfield has been round at Tanny Hill a lot recently. She died in the summer." "But, surely, no one could have killed Carla, how well protected she was." "But, he was adopted," he mused. "JJ, do you think Phil meant his other parents?" JJ shrugged. "Dunno, could be." He watched as John B got to his feet. "Or perhaps ... perhaps he had the gold. Listen," and John B read out legend about cursed gold. "The one who had the Queen Anne sovereign was immune from the ill luck." "He's not exactly got much luck right now, though," Pope said. "He don't got no money, he's on the run." "We gotta talk to him," Sarah said. "That's why we should go to Charleston and—" but she broke off when JJ suddenly dragged himself to his feet. He lay on what had once been the ground floor of his house and reached between the boards, pulling at something with his hands. Then, after a scrabbling, he knelt up and bashed his fist onto the decking. "Bitch took my weed," he growled, then reached into the opposite corner of the basement. "And my money, bitch." It was Kira's voice. "Little bitchy, whiny prick." JJ corrected himself, quickly, and then began to stride towards the main road. The Pogues, after a second or two of stillness as they worked out what JJ was doing, followed after him. "I'm going to Charleston. Anyone with me?" "Who's with me?" he added. "Looks like we going to Charleston," Cleo told Pope, happily. 88,888,888 as the Pogues left the OBX for Charleston, South Carolina, a postman came to Hayward Place with letter for Pope. Mr. Hayward put it on the windowsill, so he would remember to give it to his son when he eventually returned home.